I mean, as Corey alluded to, Andy Herman, need pick. I don't think there's any question there. How are we feeling about Darnell Savage in the green and gold, Andy?
I am feeling much better about Darnell Savage than I was Rashawn Gary earlier. So I think this is going to be a cult favorite from the beginning. A little bit of Bob Sanders in his game. He can play some corner. He can play some safety. Super aggressive player, super fast. This isn't going to surprise you at all. He also has a ton of athletic traits, which is now for sure Brian Gutekunst's MO. There's no question about that. Some question about if he can play that true free safety role. He did a little bit of it at Maryland, but he played a lot in the box. So that the question is, how does he exactly pair with Adrian Amos? But I think Amos is going to be more your overall safety. I think Savage is going to be a guy who can cover, play in the box. And I think he definitely has the speed and sideline to sideline ability to play some center field if you want him to as well. Little bit of an exception with his height. So that's going to be one thing that's maybe a little bit different, more of like a 5'11" type of guy, but just flies all over the field. Is going to be a playmaker. You see him jump a route against a receiver in the slot, and he just takes it to the house. Just a super fun player to watch.
Do you think there's any question, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer here, but do you think there's any question he is inserted as the starter immediately over a guy like Josh Jones or whoever they may have on hand?
No, he's the starter. I mean, they moved up to get him. Of course, he's gonna have to quote unquote earn his spot, but he's gonna be the guy playing next to Adrian Amos, and if not, he'll be in some nickel and dime packages at the very very worst. But it should not take him long at all to work himself into the rotation, and he can play even though he's a smaller guy. He can play some box and do some crazy things if they want to use him in some not necessarily linebacker, but maybe some just box safety situations. So he has a lot of versatility.
You talk about versatility. Obviously, you look at the Packers, they've got a ton of guys, or they have throughout the last couple of years, who do kind of shine down near the line of scrimmage, Josh Jones being an example there. They haven't brought back Campbell yet, but they could. You look at that versatility or the questions around it. Amos, I think the book on him is he does a lot of things well, but you prefer him in the strong role. Savage, probably prefer him in the strong role. If push comes to shove, who do you think between those two has to be the free?
I think the really unique aspect of having both of these two is I think both of them are good enough to play a variety of different roles, and I think they can mirror each other really well. So I wouldn't shock me to be able to see Adrian Amos come down in the box and Savage play some free safety, and vice versa. I think, as I mentioned, Savage can play in the box, and I think Amos can play some, single high and some deep safety if you need him to. I think that's going to be the real unique thing with Patton is, they're not going to have to tip their hand to offenses of which one's playing the free, which one's playing the strong. They can make that determination at the last second and really try to use that against quarterbacks.
Now, obviously, the Packers have made their two selections tonight, thankfully earlier than expected, so we can all go home. But looking at what's remaining for the Packers to do in this draft, clearly tomorrow night, you are going to be here on the Cheesehead TV YouTube channel, having your Google Hangout. So Corey and I can not be doing that. And where do you look at as far as, okay, they've made these two selections. Clearly, you've talked about the athleticism, the athletic upside for both of these players. Where do the Packers go in rounds 2 and 3, considering where they're positioned now after these first two picks?
Yeah, there's only 3 things that really make sense at this point. Receiver should have great depth. I mean, we haven't had a team unless one just wins, but we haven't had a receiver yet. So there should be good depth there at 44 or 44, is it? 44 tomorrow?
44, yeah.
Yeah. So that's certainly one that would make sense. Offensive line would make a ton of sense. And maybe corner, if a top corner fell to them at 44. Those would be the 3 that certainly would make the most sense based on the depth that's on the board. I don't think a corner's gone either. So there should definitely be good depth there at both of those positions. And you can never have enough offensive linemen. So those would be the 3 that would definitely make the most sense.
Well, fantastic. Thanks so much for your insight tonight. And we can't wait to see you and your merry band of draftniks tomorrow night on Cheesehead TV. Thanks a lot, Andy.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Go Pack.
Have a great night.